Our adventure begins in the eyes of a man having found himself trapped in a small, dark room with a bloody chair and a locked door, and already I'm unsure if we're in some kind of holding cell or the principal's office at a rural private school. Our hero is armed with nothing but a tactical knife and is wearing a gas mask, a helmet, and a combat uniform showing he's a member of the UIU, Unusual Incidents Unit, a division of the FBI that specializes in anomalous investigations. Breaking out of the interrogation room, where he was apparently left completely unrestrained and got to keep all of his gear for some reason, our hero hears a voice come over his radio. A woman calling herself Crow Actual is sending a message to any remaining entry team members in Area 12, saying that additional FBI and law enforcement personnel are on their way. Stepping out into the hallways, we can see the place is littered with the mangled bodies of security guards thrown against walls or hung from the ceiling, with their limbs and heads twisted in disturbingly unnatural positions. What's even more alarming is that sometimes lying next to the bodies of the guards are the inhuman corpses of some kind of monstrous creature with gnarled brownish gray skin. Yeah, this place certainly looks the part of a rural private school, but something's still not quite right. An automated voice over the loudspeaker repeatedly announces that a full site lockdown has been initiated and that Area 12 is experiencing multiple Keter and Euclid class containment breaches. Fortunately, it doesn't take long for our hero to find a gun, but unfortunately, when he takes a look at the magazine, it's out of ammo. He apparently wasn't alone when he was sent here too, judging by the body of one of his comrades found around the corner, although he too is about as comforting a presence as that empty gun is. Dauntlessly pressing forward, our hero sees that his exit out of this area is blocked by a metal blast door, and looking through the window, we can see some thing is standing over the body of a security guard. The thing has 4 arms, strange paint on what looks to be its face, and blood all over its stubby hands and legs. However, because underground monster torture prisons are oftentimes built without especially strict adherence to OSHA regulations, there aren't really any extra emergency exits down here, and the room with the murder mannequin is the only one with a path out of this place, so it's off to find the door controls. Finding a larger office room with even more bodies, overturned desks, and broken equipment strewn about it, the agent keeps moving, ignoring scurrying creatures and ringing phones until he finds a keycard in front of a very out-of-place wooden door. Calmly crouching down, making sure not to alert whatever's making those banging sounds on the other side of the door, our hero retrieves the keycard and keeps moving through the office space until he finds the controls for the blast door. After opening the door, strange scraping sounds can be heard approaching, and that weird statue thing pops right up next to us. Oh, and actually, well, that's all it does. It's just standing here motionless to the point where our hero can even walk up to it and smack it, revealing that it's made out of some kind of concrete material. Okay, that's a little weird. If the agent takes his eyes off the thing, it'll start loudly sliding around to try and find a way to get closer to him, and it'll only stop moving if he looks at it again. Our hero wisely decides to call this thing in, and after reporting what he's seeing to Crow Actual using his stupid silent protagonist telepathy powers, she first reacts in confusion and then tells him he needs to get out of there. With a new friend to play red light green light with, the agent cautiously makes his way over to the now unlocked room the statue was in, and on the way he uses the keycard he picked up earlier to open a door to a room with some ammo. Now we're in business. I'm unsure if the bullets would have any effect on the statue thing, but I personally doubt it, and at this point it's probably best to not risk pissing it off. Entering the room the statue is in, the agent finds a dead end that he bypasses by crawling through a vent, and after ignoring the sight of another deceased creature, drops down into a room with another door control. Opening the other blast door that was blocking his path, the agent soon hears banging sounds on the padlocked door to the room he's in, and soon the door gets broken down. Zombies rush in and attack the agent, with some of them even wearing security guard uniforms, but after a very early access battle, our hero is victorious and steps out into the path they opened for him. After entering another room and killing another zombified security guard, the agent notices a poster on the wall next to some bodies hanging from the ceiling. Be a man among men. Join the SCP Foundation MTF, an interesting and varied career. I wonder what the benefits are. Again, making his way back to the room the statue was initially in, the agent starts moving towards the Area 12 Logistics Division, and Crow Actual comes over the radio to explain that statue thing from earlier is called SCP-173, and that her team is familiar with it, but it's not supposed to be here. She says that Area 12 is a biological research facility, and that our hero is lucky to be alive. Well, thank you. Crossing a bridge in a room so large that I can't even see the bottom of it, the agent soon finds himself in an observation deck littered with bodies and telepathically reports a strange symbol written in blood above a dead guard to Crow Actual, who tells him not to look at it for too long and that it might be a potential cognito hazard, which is something that could cause him harm just by him knowing about it. Unperturbed, the agent breaks a window to drop down to a lower level, entering a security station where he has to contend with another couple zombies. Hang on though, if these guys still have all their clothes on, were these other guys booty naked when they got zombified? The agent keeps moving and hears some gunshots in the next room and Crow Actual over his radio again, who recommends he heads to the parking sector where I'm assuming his antique Ford Pinto is waiting for him. The agent soon finds his path is blocked again by a locked door and he needs to find a keypad code on some of the various tablets lying next to the dead bodies of the guards. Also in this room is another poster, a warning saying that occasionally Class E wormholes will manifest in the floor, so exercise caution when walking between areas. Good to know. On one of the tablets lying on a table, the agent finds a report detailing a special initiative to be carried out by the SCP Foundation codenamed Operation Idolatry. The report is full of bizarre talk about releasing an alien liquid metal organism and using it to target some kind of religious organization called the Church of the Broken God. Geez, so whatever this SCP Foundation place is, they don't seem to be particularly humanitarian and in fact are waging wars against other groups for a reason we've yet to find out. Using the code to open the door, the agent starts moving towards the office sector through the logistics warehouses where he finds another more open area. Using a computer to lift a lockdown door, the agent soon meets another new enemy, one of those weird dead creatures from earlier, but this time it's not dead and it wants to eat him. Hopping onto a lower level with the body of a guard on it, the agent finds an automatic weapon, arming him with quite a bit more stopping power that he uses in the next room on some more zombies, but one of them is of particular note. One zombie is wearing an orange and black jumpsuit of some sort with the word D-Class written on the back, and he's also got a large metal faceplate covering the front of his head. Strange. Entering the logistics sector loading area, the agent finds a crowbar that he can now use to open doors and containers, causing Crow Actual to make a funny little Half-Life reference. However, after rounding a corner, things are starting to look even more like a rural private school, and the agent sneaks past dozens of trembling eggs, no doubt laid by giant evil chickens. And wouldn't you know it, in this same room are two very protective monster chicken thing parents, but luckily the agent is able to channel his inner Peter Griffin and take them both out. And once the agent brutally murders the devoted young couple just trying to protect their unborn children, he advances to the next area and finds their born children, who he then crushes with an elevator. My God. Yeah, the other chickens were not happy, but soon our hero slaughters them too and rides up the elevator to a catwalk that takes him to another loading bay area. Heading into the plumbing facilities of the logistics sector, the agent deals with some more zombies, one of them having another D-Class uniform, this time with headphones instead of a metal faceplate. And eventually our hero comes across an electrical box that he needs to shoot to open some doors that release even more zombies. And some more zombies later, the agent meets a new enemy, one that looks very similar to the chickens from before, but this one has some noticeably different features and makes a strange clicking noise as it tries to attack the agent. The agent puts it down just like everything else, and once he cranks a certain valve, the sprinklers go off, allowing him to advance to the next area, which is looking a bit less logistic-y and a bit more kitchen-y. Within the kitchen, the agent finds a new document on a tablet, a report on another Foundation initiative codenamed Operation Daikaiju, which involves the deployment of Foundation uncontrolled hostile megafauna on large population centers. Whoa, so the Foundation isn't just waging war on other organizations, it's waging war on the entire world using full-scale Godzilla King Kong terrorism. The report goes into additional detail and talks about how the operation could experience some potential setbacks due to an enemy organization called the UNGOC, United Nations Global Occult Coalition, a group seeking to oppose the SCP Foundation in their quest to destroy humanity. And as they relate to Operation Dai Kaiju, the report says that the UNGOC is in possession of submersible supercarriers created specifically to destroy kaiju. Man, this is getting juicy. After reading the document, the agent returns to an area of the loading bay previously inaccessible due to a fire, but now that the sprinklers have put it out, another one of those clicker chickens came through, which is of course no issue for the agent as he continues onward. He soon finds another tablet, this one containing a report on another SCP initiative codenamed Operation Heartset. The report provides even more juicy world building, talking of plans to use other SCPs to wreak havoc on survivor settlements and refugee camps across the world. Yikes, so I guess the SCP Foundation actually seems to be winning the battle against the rest of the Earth, unfortunately, and this report reveals that the operation to destroy humanity was given the name Protocol Foundation. Hold up one second, everybody, I'm coming back to add a little edit in here. I now realize that I may actually have been interpreting this report incorrectly. As a matter of fact, I now realize that these reports might not actually be reports at all, but instead propositions of projects that would be enacted in the event of the Foundation actually deciding to destroy the world. Look, the bottom line is that there's multiple ways of interpreting what's happening with the world building in this game, and neither I nor the game itself seems to have really nailed down the direction that it wants to go in quite yet, and that's okay. But for now, just take everything I say and have said about these reports with a grain of salt, and please wait until the exploration section towards the end where I discuss everything further. Okay, now let's get back to it. Moving forward, the agent soon meets an oddly unnerving sight, two ordinary human guards with no visible zombification or any other weird ailments, but still they attack him anyway, no doubt driven by the Foundation's unfathomable goal of wiping out all of humanity, including themselves, it seems. The agent dispatches the enemy guards and continues moving through the logistics area, which is now flooding with zombies, chickens, and additional human guards, but eventually our hero unlocks a path to the Area 12 parking sector through a large tunnel which has even more guards. I'm not seeing any Ford Pintos here though, but I do see a freaking lot of guards. I don't know where all these dudes were earlier, but they are out in full force now, and the agent is so overwhelmed he basically has to skirt past most of them when they're distracted by other enemies. Wait a second, if the SCP Foundation wants all of humanity to die, including themselves, why did the guards even bother fighting back against the monsters and zombies? I don't know. Anyway, after cheesing a few dozen resonators in the back of a Chevy Tahoe, the agent smashes through some glass to reach level 2 of the parking garage, where he uses a key card to unlock the sector's armory. And now we've got another shiny new toy to play with. Outside the armory, however, the mood is soured by the sight of a group of D-class personnel seemingly killed execution style by a firing squad. The agent reports his findings to Crow Actual, who explains that these D-class units are not actually members of the SCP Foundation per se, and are instead recruited from prisons all around the world to be used as test subjects in Foundation research projects. Pressing forward, our hero finds himself in a particularly tricky situation in which he needs to release excess pressure from some gas pipes to stop a perpetual fire that's blocking his path. After another early access battle that I really can't even complain that much about because it's got flaming zombies, the agent puts out the fire and rushes into the Area 12 reception lobby, where he holds off the remaining zombies, whose onslaught is eventually halted when the roof of the parking garage caves in on them, sealing them outside and the agent inside. So now we're kinda back where we started, still stuck in Area 12, but luckily Crow Actual comes over the radio to congratulate our hero and tells him to head over to the director's office where he'll be able to let her and her buddies inside. Finally, let's hope she's bringing donuts. Seeing that the door to the armory is locked, the agent keeps moving and finds himself himself in some kind of laboratory/office area with some strangely positioned corpses and a few more zombies, one of them being another new D-class variant. And around the corner, the agent soon finds in a small computer lab an audio journal created by a Foundation researcher named Dr. Brown. Here, let's have a listen.
This is Warner Brown, sub-level 125, 8:32 p.m. I am relocating to 108 to assist of determining why we have lost control of the Vector 026s and the Perimeter Vector 349s. D-Class personnel are now relatively contained in sub-level 205 and below, but they have damaged multiple SCP transport containers in their attempt to escape.
Well, he definitely sounds like an evil scientist. I don't really think there's a ton to be gleaned from this audio log right now, however, except that D-Class personnel were trying to escape at some point earlier and that they were able to damage a few SCP transport containers while they were doing so. Maybe that's part of the reason why everything is so messed up here. Now check this out. Remember that weird wooden door with something clearly waiting on the other side of it way back in the holding cell sector? Well, there's another one of them here, and that is what's waiting on the other side. When the agent shoots a zombie that walks in front of the door, some weird squid thing pops out and tries to swipe at him. It's an SCP that disguises itself as a wooden door and lies in wait for unsuspecting passerbys. Yikes. Sneaking past the door monster, the agent takes out some more zombies and guards and finds in a laboratory room a message on the wall written in blood, and below the short question he finds a tablet with the security code for the armory. On the way back to the armory door, the agent finds another audio log created by Warner Brown next to a framed picture of a cat. Let's have another listen.
Warner Brown, sub-level 102, 12:01 a.m. Relocating to a new security strongpoint in the intake labs. I will have a full report shortly. Summary: non-Foundation elements that were attempting to breach Area 12 have been successfully terminated. Several instances have now been contained, and we are in need of Dr. Carlisle's insight as to the nature of this event. Anomalous characteristics and activity have been noted.
I love how frustrated he sounds. Clearly he's been doing this for a while, and at this point zombies or monsters aren't scary, they're just an inconvenience. But what he said about non-Foundation elements attempting to breach the site is interesting. Could he possibly be referring to the UIU agent and his comrades? I mean, they were trying to breach the site and they were contained at the beginning of the game, but that is a bit of a reach, I know, and not completely supported by the other things he says in the log, but that's really all I have for Mr. Brown, since I doubt we'll ever be hearing from him again. After taking out a couple more guards, the agent continues making his way towards the director's office and rounds a corner to see an old friend is back. Being careful not to lose sight of SCP-173, the agent enters a large spillway chamber and backs into some kind of gigantic plant growth snaking throughout the entire room. I'm not sure what this thing is, and I'll bet it's gonna come back to cause trouble later, but the agent has bigger problems at the moment, namely the fact that 173 is able to break down doors. Ugh. Still though, the agent loses him on a stairwell and fights another group of guards in a generator room, and after taking care of them, heads up another stairwell to— come on, dude. You know what? Look at the way he's standing. Maybe he just wants a hug. Is that what you want, man? Is that— alright, come on, let's hug it out, man. Come on. You want a hug? Okay, the hug didn't work, and once again the agent has to play red light, green light with his neck-snapping pal once more, but after he reactivates enough of the fuel pumps to restart the generators and lower the water flow in the spillway to a safe level, he jumps right on in and continues on his merry way. However, he soon finds the corpse of a Foundation guard with a strange symbol written on the floor next to it, similar to the triangle one drawn in blood from earlier, except this one has bizarre rambling written all around it, things like keep forgetting, don't write it down, and why would there be doors? Anyway, entering the water treatment plant of Area 12, our hero soon meets a new enemy, a giant crab. Yeah, that's just a big ass spider crab. Nothing really that supernatural about it as far as I can tell, aside from the fact that it can eat entire magazines from fully automatic rifles. A real Looney Tunes-esque fight ensues in the treatment plant where zombies and crabs team up to try and kill our hero, but eventually he is victorious and heads through the door that he opened up that the crabs came through. Rounding the corner to shoot some more crabs, the agent sees on the floor the body of what looks to be an actual SCP Foundation researcher. I've been wondering where these guys were all this time. However, in the next room, the agent notices again that giant plant growth from earlier. I knew we would be seeing more of that, and soon comes upon a small group of Foundation guards. The guards, however, seem preoccupied, and the agent soon realizes that these plant growths are capable of defending themselves by shooting large spines from their flowers to impale their targets. Once he deals with the killer plants and the giant crabs though, our hero arrives at the Area 12 transport halls where another large gunfight ensues with a group of Foundation guards who actually try to pull a little pincer maneuver on him, but he's able to escape and runs off to an elevator that takes him to a lower level. Now, I don't know what's going on in this guy's head, but I'm assuming he's still trying to find the director's office to let Crow Actual and her buddies in, even though we haven't heard from them for a bit, which is concerning, and why he believes that she would be deeper underground in the facility as opposed to higher up in it closer to the surface, I do not know. Regardless, the agent has now found himself in the Area 12 common area, which surprisingly doesn't seem to be as affected by the containment breach as the other areas of the facility are. It's dead quiet down here, save for the hum of the conch and Beppis machines, but the tranquility doesn't last forever because as soon as the agent lifts the lockdown in the area, all the doors open and he hears a full-scale battle happening outside. For the first time, we can see living, non-zombified D-class units desperately fighting a group of guards on an opposite level. The agent helps out the D-boys and shoots the guards for them, but the D-class attack him too anyway, and since he's a stupid silent protagonist who can't talk and just tell them, hey, I'm cool, I as the player have no choice but to put the D-class down. I can only hope they were all murderers or whatever and deserve to be D-class units instead of like some guy who wound up in prison after he forgot to pay at self-checkout for a box of Raisin Bran or something. Finding a clearance code on a dead guard's tablet, the agent opens a shutter door to the Area 12 Ford Education Center, a location within Area 12 that I guess serves as a learning space for anyone entering the facility. This is a cool location for sure, but I have to wonder who exactly would this place be for in-universe. The SCP Foundation's whole shtick is that it ensures the public does not know about anomalies or really anything about the stuff they get up to, so is this place just for members of the SCP Foundation themselves? Is it for new employees, maybe even D-class? I don't know, but it's a great area. Please don't interpret what I'm saying as complaining. I'll take anything in a shooter game that isn't a warehouse or an office space. I love it here already, and after entering an auditorium, the agent meets an SCP that I love even more. Within Screening Room 1 of the Education Center, the theater screen has been inhabited by some kind of glitching phantom. The agent becomes disoriented and rushes back outside. It seems we've come into contact with one of those cognito hazards that Crow Actual mentioned earlier, but this time, instead of just a mural on the wall, it's an entire SCP. If you look closely into the theater hall, you can see glitching apparitions standing motionless in the Wait, that one's coming towards me. After playing a bit of keep away with that guy, the agent walks outside and sees the headless corpse of a Foundation guard with the same warping glitch effects that the apparitions have. Looks like these guys fell victim to that screen SCP. Maybe they're being used as puppets by it in some way. Deciding to try his luck in the museum area of the Education Center, the agent opens the door and hears deep buzzing sounds all around him. As he moves through the museum, the SCP will manifest on the screens all throughout the location and try to make him look at it. This screen SCP is kind of a reverse of SCP-173, whereas with 173 you have to keep looking at it to stay alive. With this one, the agent has to not look at it to stay alive. At least I think that's what the trick is. I mean, there are times where I'm definitely not looking at it and the agent is still getting disoriented, but for the most part, not looking at it seems to be the way to go. You can even see it jumping from monitor to monitor sometimes, and if you're wondering what the crazy stuff on the screen is, I think it's supposed to represent the agent losing his mind. The agent also can't really just shoot the monitors either. If he does that with the SCP on it, it'll jump right to him and kill him outright, and if he does it with monitors that don't have the SCP on it, it'll just get pissed off. Listen, you hear it going wah wah wah. Anyway, after he manages to find a clearance code on a dead guard's tablet, the agent gains access to the projector rooms and disables the theater screens that block his access to the backstage areas. Once he deals with a couple guards hanging out in the back, the agent picks up a level 2 clearance card, which grants him additional access to the generator room back at the entrance of the education center. Powering the generator back on, the agent returns to the common area and battles a large group of guards who must have come over when they heard the alarm turn back on. The agent eventually defeats them, however, and heads over to the now reactivated central elevator to go even further downwards, only to see that it's been infested with those giant plant growths from the earlier sectors. It looks like these plant growths are spreading rapidly throughout Area 12, but undeterred as ever, the agent takes a quick detour through the dormitories and passes through an empty security checkpoint to head deeper downward. I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure the agent has completely forgotten about Crow Actual, who's probably lying on the floor somewhere with her head on backwards, and at this point the only reason he's going deeper down is because they took his house keys when they interrogated him and he's still trying to find them. Regardless, our intrepid hero soon finds himself on the path to the Area 12 atrium, which is completely overrun with the plant growths. And after getting early access by spikes that can travel through walls, the agent arrives at the dormitory atrium, which is being choked out by several instances, or technically maybe just one big instance of the plant SCP. Now what the agent has to do here is clear out the big plant tendrils blocking the central elevator because he's a lardass who can't just squeeze through this little opening here, so he decides to do a whole convoluted process of figuring out what part of this indestructible plant he has to shoot to get it to move its big dumb butt out of the way. And as he shoots the blue bulbs that contract each big tendril, the plant becomes angry and its flowers start shooting spikes at him again. The dormitories are expansive and eerie, and there's even a few guards down here, but eventually the agent is able to get each tendril to retract itself, granting him access to the elevator. However, when he tries to use it, it denies him, saying that a retinal scan from the head of security is required for entry. Oh, I hope this idiot doesn't take that literally. After looking around for clues on the tablets of dead security guards, the agent heads into management on the second floor to look for the head of security, checking out the almost dystopian dorm rooms on the way. The personnel here have no gym equipment, no posters, no personal affects. Yikes, maybe D-Class aren't the only prisoners in this place. Eventually, our hero does locate the chief security officer, the first regular human being in ordinary clothes we've seen so far, although he is unfortunately a little worse for wear. In an instance where I'm actually a little glad this game is still in early access, the agent removes an eyeball from the body, which thankfully doesn't have any gratuitous animation to it, and after fighting a group of guards who, I guess all overslept, returns back to the elevator and keeps heading on down. Stepping out of the elevator into the Area 12 prison sector, the agent finally sees where the Foundation personnel keep all their D-Class holed up. However, as we know, a fair bit of the D-Class were able to escape their cells due to the containment breach, and soon the agent meets another group of D-Boys who I initially thought might have been friendly, but then their AI kicked in and they tried to kill me, so I shot them all. In the same room, the agent notices above him a plaque on the wall of a Latin phrase that reads Secundus Casus ad Libertatem, which roughly translates to a second chance at freedom. Very uplifting. They had a plaque like that at the rural private school I went to, actually. Exploring a small prison block, the agent takes out some more hostile D-Class and examines the conditions of the place. There's dead riot guards laying around, toilet paper everywhere, and even sometimes piles of viscera on the floor. This place is torn up, and entering the central prison nexus, the agent sees just how expansive the D-Class complex is. What's more alarming, however, is the fact that the plant SCP has decided to make this place home and is growing throughout the entire area from top to bottom. And, to make matters worse, the whole place is flooded and the water level is quickly rising. The agent has to make a mad dash to the top of the guard tower to escape the flooding, but on top of everything else, the plant's tendrils are blocking the stairway stairwells. As the agent works to retract each giant blue plant tendril from the stairwells, sometimes additional D-class come out to try and kill him, but eventually after a lot of hedge clipping, the agent does arrive at the top of the guard tower where a water pump is waiting for him. Turning the pump and draining the holding cells, the agent starts making his way back down the tower, fighting incoming guards along the way, and finds a code on a guard's tablet that he then uses to gain entry to the elevator room. Shooting a power box to activate the elevator, the agent rides down again into the unknown. And that's it. The level ends. That's the story of Area 12 as it stands right now. But it's not quite the full story of SCP-5K. Alright everybody, as you can all see, this video is not quite over yet, and even though I really have covered all the major happenings of Area 12, the agent doesn't do much besides kill bad guys, turn valves, or find keycards for most of the level. There is actually still quite a bit left over. I'm making a special section here to explain some things you may have found confusing while watching the playthrough section and to elaborate further on all the story elements that I missed, since even though I really haven't talked about it much in the past 10 minutes or so, this video is intended to be about the game's story. First off, this game is indeed an early access. Neither I nor the developers are trying to hide that, and honestly it makes it even more impressive that what little world building and story that we do have is as juicy as it is. But it also means that the story is not quite as clear, there may be some things missing, and of course that it is very subject to change. Now you probably noticed that there were times where I obviously didn't know which way the story was headed, and sometimes I didn't even use the real name of an SCP because I assumed the game would reveal its name naturally in like an intel document or something, but that didn't happen for all of them unfortunately. The reason for that is because I made this video while I was still doing my first playthrough of the game. That's why I try to avoid the words explained or analyzed if I can in like my thumbnails or descriptions or titles, because I mean it goes without saying these videos are not research projects where I cite at least 3 sources and use APA format. They're just supposed to be fun videos where I talk about a game, focusing on the story but also mixing in other aspects whenever I can. By writing and editing the video while I play through the game, it not only makes it more fun for the both of us because I get to experience everything for the first time right along with you the viewer, it also takes considerably less time. My videos are very high effort and it takes a while to make even a short intro animation or those basic model demos that you see whenever a new character or monster shows up. That being said, one of the pitfalls of this exploration style is that I might miss a thing or two because even though I do try to be as thorough as I can, it is my first time playing and I might not know like where everything is. Add that to the fact that again, this is an early access game and to my knowledge I am the first person to make a video on its story. I don't see any other videos about it that aren't basic playthroughs or commentaries of some kind, so this is uncharted waters for all of us. I'm making this video because frankly the game is pretty dope and has a ton of potential, and there's even another level out right now that I'm not going to cover yet even though I really want to because I have to upload this video and gauge everybody's responses to see if I should make a follow-up. Everybody made it pretty clear they're not into Ghost Runner, so I'm going to see if SCP is more up to your guys' liking. With all that being said, now it's time for me to clear up what I've missed or what I never brought up in the first place. Let's start way at the beginning with a basic gist of what the premise of this game actually is. I'll try my best to be as brief as I can. Here we go. The SCP Foundation is a fictional worldwide organization that specializes in the capture, evaluation, and containment of supernatural entities in order to protect the outside world. These supernatural entities are all categorized with a very simple naming convention, the acronym SCP followed by a number, and as you've seen they come in all different shapes and sizes and are held in top secret facilities around the world. The main storytelling idea behind the SCP universe is the contrast between the analytical world of modern scientific research where everything must be categorized and understood, and the magical and horrifying concepts of fantasy or sci-fi settings that inherently defy explanation, like indestructible teleporting statues or evil computer screens that make your head explode. Now the premise of SCP-5K is that it's a story within the SCP universe that answers the question of what would happen if the SCP Foundation, the single most powerful organization within the setting, decided to abandon its original mission of protecting humanity and instead attempt to destroy it, which, as we know from the operation propositions, would not only involve them using their immense manpower and highly advanced technology, but also each and every one of the SCPs in their possession to wreak havoc on the rest of the world. However, while SCP-5K may answer the question of how the SCP Foundation might destroy the world, the fundamental question it asks is why. And that's where you, as the UIU agent, come in, waking up in the holding cells of Area 12 on a mission to figure out why the Foundation is doing this. So that's about as simple as I can make it for this video. That may have been a tad bit confusing, and of course the story goes much deeper than that, but for now just understand that in the plot of SCP-5K there is a massive conspiracy by the SCP Foundation, an incredibly powerful organization with all sorts of supernatural anomalies in its possession, to eradicate all of humanity for a reason people like the UIU agent you play as are trying to figure out. Now, the original idea behind SCP-5K is SCP-5000, which is honestly probably my single favorite SCP ever written, but all that discussion will have to be saved for another video that I will happily make if everybody likes this one. Now, it's time for me to talk about what I actually missed. Remember those two SCPs that I never actually said the names of, the Plant SCP and the Screen SCP? Well, even though the information is never revealed in-game to my knowledge, those SCPs do have names, descriptions, and histories found elsewhere that makes them both even more interesting. However, as some of the information I'll be sharing here is from places other than the game itself, such as the official game wiki or the SCP wiki, please remember again that it may not be fully applicable in the game's current state or whenever you are actually watching this video. Again, early access, I don't know anything about the game, I'm just trying to make a fun video, don't take anything I say as gospel. Okay, let's begin. By the way, if you aren't already, get used to me saying SCP, there's not really any way for me to avoid it from this point on. Alright, so let's start with the giant plant SCP, which is said on the unofficial game wiki to actually be a combination of two different plant-based SCPs. The main portion of the plant SCP belongs to SCP-1262, the Seed of Destruction, an enormous invasive green, blue, and yellow plant species capable of immensely accelerated growth, extreme resistance to harsh conditions and physical damage, and the formation of complex structures that it can then use to defend itself, including but not limited to flechette-launching flowers that we're already familiar with, hallucinogenic spore pods, and a variety of other configurations. While in-game we only see the flechette flowers and the spore pods, although the spores don't seem to have any effect on the agent, probably since he wears a gas mask, the SCP Wiki article on 1262 says that it's capable of using its roots to engulf its prey and absorb them for nutrients, just like any other predatory plant can, but to much more extreme proportions, being able to eat entire humans or cause entire towns to evacuate from its gigantic spore clouds. Interestingly, its article on the SCP Wiki says that SCP-1262 was first discovered in the year 2010 in Iceland of all places, when a group of geologists accidentally released it, causing a giant where 1262 grew to an obscene size and was only defeated when a nearby volcano was caused to erupt with repeated airstrikes. Yeah, it was kind of a whole thing. However, as we can clearly see in-game, not all of 1262 must have been destroyed in 2010, and its remnants were secured by the SCP Foundation and moved to Area 12, where it, among other SCPs, breached containment during the opening events of the game. Now, the unofficial SCP-5K wiki says that 1262 has combined with a different SCP called SCP-621, another plant SCP that's far less complex and dangerous than 1262, which manifests as a very invasive, colorful, bioluminescent bulb that has a hypnotizing effect on humans. And in-game there are indeed bright blue bulbs that can be seen growing on the tendrils of SCP-1262, although I have to say actually I'm not quite certain that these blue bulbs are SCP-621 instances, since, as I said, the official SCP Wiki states that the defining characteristic of SCP-621 is that it has a strong hypnotizing effect on any humans in its proximity, but obviously in-game the agent clearly doesn't experience any of those kinds of effects. Now, this could of course be that the feature hasn't been implemented yet, it could be that these bulbs aren't 621 at all and are simply other special structures of SCP-1262, or it could be that the agent is so monumentally stupid stupid that the hypnosis doesn't even register on him. Regardless, the point is I actually can't say with absolute certainty that these bulbs are 100% supposed to be instances of SCP-621, but I can say that there has been talk from the developers that 621 is supposed to be implemented as an environmental SCP at some point in this game's production. Okay, so that's going to be it for SCP-1262 and SCP-621, the plant SCPs, at least for this video anyway, and I absolutely love them. I've always felt that plants are underutilized in games since you can get really creative with them, but now it's time to discuss the screen SCP, SCP-7528. Now this SCP is quite a bit more elaborate than the plant SCPs to say the least, and it even has its own very cool article on the SCP Wiki with its own unique incident descriptions, pictures, and conversations between characters. One of these characters even being the same Dr. Carlisle that Mr. Warner Brown mentioned earlier on his audio tape, I think. It's amazing. It's a long read and it's a good read, but again, for the purpose of this video, I have to keep things brief. SCP-7528 is a powerful and exceedingly hostile entity that inhabits computer systems, and prior to the events of the game, it was contained deep within a highly secure partition of Area 12's intranet, closely guarded by a highly advanced AI model created by the SCP Foundation. The AI model was instructed to analyze SCP-7528 to ensure that it wouldn't spread and contaminate other systems, but to make a long, well-written, and fascinating story short, the AI would eventually release SCP-7528, causing a containment breach, explaining to the director of Area 12 that it was told to by the O5 Council, the head administrative body of the SCP Foundation itself, although there's heavy implications that this AI model made to guard 7528 has much bigger plans in mind than just doing whatever it's told. Again, it's a long and very good story, and I'll link it in the description, but I actually don't know when exactly it's supposed to be taking place, like if it's happening before the containment breach we see in-game, or if it's the very same one, but that doesn't really matter. So SCP-7528's main anomalous property of note is its ability to jump from medium to medium, and as we see in-game, it is extremely dangerous and will actively try to kill anyone that it can by causing intense hallucinations and disruptions in their brain that result in severe hemorrhaging. The last thing I'll say about it is that the article reveals SCP-7528 is sapient and has quite a personality. It actually refers to itself in the plural form using pronouns like we and us. And the article seems to confirm that when you shoot the computer screens in the education center, there's not really any deeper mechanism or lore reason as to why it starts moving faster and making more noise. You literally are just pissing it off. Alright, so that's everything I'll say here for those two SCPs that I was never able to elaborate on during the playthrough section, but we're still not done yet. There is even more juicy story and lore to discuss. Now you may be asking, what else could there be? I already covered the two SCPs that I never said the names of, and I looked for every intel document or operation file in the game, right? Well, thanks to the pimps in the SCP-5K Discord server, I learned that there is a cheat code that you can use that will give you access to all the intel documents currently in the game. And man, there is some juice in here. More operation propositions, more audio logs, and even a report or two on some SCPs. Now, many of these documents are for the other level that I haven't covered yet, but there are still a boatload of new operation propositions from Area 12 for us to go through here. And I didn't go looking in the game files for these either, you know, I'm no data miner or anything. I got these through a cheat code, so as far as I'm concerned, these are fair game, and it's not like I'm revealing anything I shouldn't be yet. In addition, some of these documents could have already been in the game and I simply missed them. I mean, I couldn't find any guides on how to find them all, so some of these could be just ones that I never noticed. Also, something I never saw until now is that if you're on the tablet and you play an audio log, the agent has a little animation where he puts a cassette tape in, so that's pretty cool. Alright, so what caught my eye first in this list of new intel documents is this report on SCP-173-B, and already I've learned something new from the name alone. The B in the name suggests that the SCP-173 we see here at Area 12 is not the original SCP-173 per se, but a replica of the original. That must be why Crow Actual was able to recognize it since she had seen it before, but also why she was confused as to why it would be at Area 12 since she couldn't have known there were two of them. Okay, so as we know, SCP-173-B is a tall, somewhat humanoid statue with 2 legs, a head, and 4 arms whose anatomy consists of a concrete outer shell with a steel rebar skeleton underneath. You can even see some of the rebar extending out of its concrete shell in some areas on its body, and its most notable feature is arguably its strange spray-painted minimalistic face, which only consists of 2 large black eyes, 4 red lower eyelids, and a green marking on its forehead. SCP-173-B was discovered in the early 1990s in an art exhibit in Japan, apparently the very same one that the original SCP-173 was discovered in, after multiple reports of people getting killed by it, and the SCP Foundation came and snagged it, moving it here to the Area 12 Special Containment Division. As we know, the whole trick with 173-B is that it cannot move if it's being watched, although the report makes an important caveat that explains it will only stop moving if it's being watched by a sapient organism. Small animals or insects don't have any effect on it, and interestingly, the report also reveals that if 173-B catches sight of itself, it will become immobilized, indicating that it is in some way sapient as well. It's also described as cognito-hazardous, meaning that when it's in its immobilized state, anyone viewing it will experience feelings of intense paranoia and anxiety combined with vivid hallucinations. Now, my favorite reveal of this report, however, is the information it provides on how 173-B moves. It states that 173-B is capable of instantaneous acceleration and is somehow able to preserve its momentum when it's not moving. And most interesting of all is that when 173-B has been observed traveling longer distances, it leaves physical damage on surfaces that suggests hexapedal motion. So if I'm interpreting this correctly, there's 2 big reveals here. The first one is that 173-B doesn't teleport, it just moves absurdly fast, and the term hexapedal suggests that it uses all 6 of its limbs when doing so. So it wouldn't look like this while moving, it would look like this. However, as we also know, 173-B is always observed in the upright position, and it makes a scraping sound as it moves, so I always figured it was just sort of sliding around on the floor. Regardless, this is a great little lore document, and 173-B has got to be one of the best SCPs to put into a game. Like, it's got a great simple gimmick for games, and it was executed perfectly here. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of it as the game gets updated. Now, the 173-B article is pretty cool, but as you can see, the main new additions that the cheat code gave to my journal dossier were all the new operation propositions. Aside from the ones I've already covered, I counted 10 new Protocol Foundation operation propositions, each with their own descriptions on how the SCP Foundation could use their little monsters to lay waste to the Earth. Let's begin with the cheery named Operation Better World, an initiative focusing on depopulation and decollectivization that suggests the Foundation exploits a very particular SCP in their possession, SCP-2241, to essentially make him become evil and want to kill humans. The thing is though that SCP-2241 isn't a monster or a robot or a plant, it's a 7-year-old boy with telekinetic powers named Cameron. Going by the SCP Wiki article for 2241, Cameron was discovered by the Foundation after helping a woman survive a kidnapping using his anomalous abilities, and was fooled into thinking the Foundation could help him become a superhero. The wiki page is messed up enough, but the Operation Better World document reveals that during the events of SCP-5K, Cameron is now an adult, and has been psychologically conditioned by the Foundation to have abandoned his original dream of becoming a superhero and now only acts according to their whims. The Operation Better World proposition basically involves him just being let loose on the world and being used to destroy it. Damn, that's kinda dark stuff, and once again reinforces that the SCP Foundation, despite its mantra, rarely actually has humanity's best interest at heart. Not much else I can say about that one, really. The next proposition document details an initiative titled Operation IVIG, it's a German word so I think the W is pronounced with a V, which involves the usage of SCP-4666, a spectral demonic SCP that primarily hunts children so it can eat the— Jesus, they better not all be like this. That, I'm moving on. Alright, let's check out Operation Hindsight, designed to carry out something called obviation, which after a quick Google search, I learned is basically just a fancy word for deterrence. This one is somewhat less messed up than the last two, and actually makes reference to the main character from the original SCP-5000 article, which is pretty cool. Anyway, this document brings up one of the more interesting points about the idea behind SCP-5K and Protocol Foundation, which are the difficulties the Foundation could face in essentially eliminating itself, since it is, after all, primarily staffed by human beings and nobody is exempt from the protocol. Basically, Operation Hindsight provides a framework that SCP soldiers could use when preparing to deal with other advanced Foundation sites. But what's most noteworthy is that the status at the top of the document doesn't read approved as it has with all the other reports. It says concluded, which means that this operation has already been carried out. Yikes. The next report is another operation that's already been completed, titled Operation Joyous Somnambulist. Somnambulist is another word for a sleepwalker, which details the destruction of a global occult coalition operating base called Farpoint, which is aptly named since it's about as remote as a base could be, deep in the reaches of outer space. The operation involves the usage of a special computer SCP to essentially melt the entire base with all inhabitants inside, done in a way to make it seem as though an internal failure caused the base's destruction. Wow, you're not even safe from Protocol Foundation in space. These guys are thorough. Next up, we have Operation Kessler, another one of the more interesting operation propositions that asks the question of how might the SCP Foundation carry out Protocol Foundation in the modern digital age we currently find ourselves in, where everything is recorded and shared to the world in mere moments. Well, Operation Kessler proposes that the Foundation simply disables as many forms of communication that they can by causing a chain reaction in Earth's outer gravity belt, which is where all its satellites orbit it. The document reveals as well that Operation Kessler is already in progress, and various Foundation railguns are currently pointed at GOC-controlled satellites and more, ready to disrupt human interconnectivity across the globe when the command to execute Protocol Foundation finally rings out. Well, that's comforting. The next operation we'll discuss is an initiative titled Operation Freddy Fazbear. Next operation we'll discuss is titled Operation Leviathan. Ooh, here we go. Operation Leviathan is an initiative put forth by the Foundation that suggests the activation of SCP-169, an enormous aquatic organism currently lying dormant deep below the South Atlantic Ocean. Apparently, this thing took a lot of melatonin before it went to sleep, and Operation Leviathan actually recommends the usage of nuclear bombs to wake it up. After that, though, the Foundation is basically done, since SCP-169 is so large they have to estimate its size, and the current guess is that it's measuring an unfathomable 7,855 kilometers. It's so big, in fact, that as it applies to Protocol Foundation, its main goal isn't even going to be like destroying cities or anything. By waking it up and having it just move around, the Foundation figures it'll do plenty of damage in seismic activity alone. Wow, that was a great little intel document. See, SCP-5000 can be a lot of fun when you actually consider just the sheer scale of the damage the Foundation could deal with even as few as like 1 or 2 SCPs. Luckily though, Operation Leviathan is not currently being carried out yet and has only been approved by Foundation administration, so sleep easy tonight. Next up, we have Operation Moonfall, an initiative designed to destroy what seems to me to actually be another Foundation research site, although this one is located on the moon, and apparently the Foundation personnel there have all become insurgents, unwilling to carry out the heinous acts of Protocol Foundation. Operation Moonfall seeks to use a special teleporting SCP, SCP-120, to beam in a few Foundation soldiers who will then make their way to the Lunar facility's power core to destroy it and the facility along with it. There's even a twisted little bonus, as the creators of Operation Moonfall theorized that the debris from the destruction of Lunar Area 32 will make its way to Earth and act as additional ordnance to cause even more damage. Okay, maybe don't rest easy tonight. The next proposition is for one titled Operation Paris Syndrome. Paris Syndrome being a phenomena in which tourists, particularly Japanese ones visiting Paris, become extremely disappointed when the city does not live up to their expectations. Operation Paris Syndrome suggests the Foundation uses a very unique SCP, SCP-1048, a sapient and otherwise completely innocent teddy bear capable of creating extremely violent copies of itself. Operation Paris Syndrome basically just involves dropping SCP-1048 into a crowded city such as Paris and letting it go crazy. I mean, an army of evil teddy bears definitely doesn't seem as effective as some of the other operation suggestions, but I guess in combination with everything else, it couldn't hurt. Next up, we have Operation Propagate that suggests the usage of SCP-096, an indestructible monstrous SCP that brutally kills anyone who looks at his face. Now, initially you might think that's like hyperbolic and not meant to be taken literally. It kind of sounds like something like a slasher movie killer would say, but nope. SCP-096's whole shtick is that even if you catch a passing glimpse of his face, he will brutally murder you. This also extends to pictures as well, so if you take a picture of, say, your buddy on a mountain range and you accidentally get 096 in the background of the shot and you can't even see him, guess what? You're gonna die. And anyone who subsequently views that picture, no matter where they are, will also die. The funniest thing to me though is that 096 can't teleport or fly or really do anything special when it comes to moving, so if some D-class in China gets shown a photo of 096 on his phone, yes, it will literally run to the other end of the earth to murder him. Operation Propagate is slated to be carried out between Operations Moonfall and Kessler, happening while worldwide satellites are being disabled but before the moon is destroyed, and involves plastering pictures of 096's face across as many screens as possible before the internet is destroyed. Oh my gosh, this is one of the best operation propositions yet. Dude, I love SCP-096. Obviously, I don't think he's the scariest SCP, but he is certainly one of the most fun to read about. I hope they try and fit him into this game at some point. He's also got a great gimmick for like a video game. Now, lastly, the final operation proposition I'm going to share with you is Operation Recidivism, one of the more complex operations that aims to deal with the fact that the Foundation is receiving reports that the United States government is funding efforts to quote-unquote permanently evacuate the mainline universe. The document says if the government pulls that off, whatever that even is, it'll make it significantly harder for the Foundation to kill everybody because there's going to be two universes. The document goes further and explains the logistics of the parallel universe dilemma, and it's frankly really difficult to understand, but I think what it's saying is that there's a facility in the pocket dimension that I think's it's acting as sort of an anchor of some kind to the original regular dimension, and the government is basically using this facility to move stuff in between dimensions. Operation Recidivism basically involves going into the pocket dimension facility and using a nuke to blow it up, which will also blow up the rest of the parallel universe, which apparently isn't that big. And that is gonna do it for this video, everybody. That was all the information I could fit in about Area 12 in SCP-5K. All the documents I just went through were marked as being from Area 12, and while I definitely didn't go as in-depth as I could with them, the playthrough section of Area 12 covered basically everything else. Remember though, this game is in early access. Some things may get removed, some things may get changed, and a whole lot of other things will get added. Again, there is a lot more I could get into with this game, and there's still an entire other level I would love to showcase, but we're up to over 50 minutes now, and this video was over 2 weeks of pure crunch time. There's more than enough here as it is. I think if I can get consistent views, I can make a video just like this one probably once every 3 weeks, at least until school starts up again, or, you know, I have to go to war or whatever. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you all enjoyed the whimsical adventure of the UIU agent at Area 12, and I hope you're as excited as I am for whatever these devs cook up next. In the meantime, I'll have another video ready for you all as soon as I can. Thank you for watching, and by the way, one more thing, if for whatever reason you find yourself in a place that looks suspiciously similar to the principal's office at a rural private school, keep an eye out for giant evil chickens and giant evil plants and giant evil crabs and evil security guards and zombies and murderous television screens.